All right, guys, welcome to episode 16 of the Different Animals podcast. It's your boy Tyler.
And I'm Ever Castro.
And today we're going to talk about a very common topic, which is what have we been watching recently. We're going to talk about some of baseball's unwritten rules. We're going to talk about another sport, and going to leave it at that. And we may or may not talk about some movies and or a game that just came out. But first... Okay, let's start with what we've been watching.
Yes.
So what have you been getting into recently?
Yeah. So I finished up Mrs. America, which is the show that I talked about 2 weeks ago. The one about the ratification of the ERA with Kate Blanchett and Rose Byrne and everybody else. And I finished that up. It was a short series, and I liked it. I thought it was as good in the second half as it was in the first half that I talked about. The performances stayed great. The finale I thought was not underwhelming, but it was kind of like I don't know. I was expecting it to go out with more of a bang, but it kind of went out kind of like the Watchmen series. I don't know if you seen that one yet.
I haven't.
So that one's the same thing. It's like there's like a few episodes in the middle where you're like, oh my god, like this is the peak of TV, right? And then the ending is not bad by any stretch. I mean, I lived through Game of Thrones, right? Like no way close. Like but it was solid, right? And it's like that. It finished like that, where I'm like, okay, that was good. And so I definitely recommend it. Check it out. 9 episodes, each are about 45 minutes, 42 minutes, but fascinating. And it just moved, like I said. So I finished that up, and then I started the HBO show called I May Destroy You. Okay. It's written, directed, and it stars Michaela Cole, who is a British writer, and she also did a show called Chewing Gum. And the show, it's a drama, but there are touches of comedy in it, just humor. They're a half hour each, and there's 12 episodes, and I think it ends by the time you're listening to this. It should all be over, because it ends, I think, in like a few days from now. So it should be over by the time you get there. By the time you hear this, and it's on HBO Max. And it's 12 episodes, each about a half hour. And the show's about a young writer, played by Michaela Cole, who goes out partying one night, and she kind of blacks out. And then when she comes to, she realizes that she's been sexually assaulted. And so the show is about like her moving beyond that, and also dealing with it, and sort of dealing with the trauma, and her friends helping her out. But it's also about her friends, so it's kind of I guess you would say a memoir of this writer's life, and it's really good, and it's fascinating, and it's really interesting, and goes into some topics that I think are worth looking at. But everybody in the show, including Michaela Cole's character, they're very complex. So they're like the best friend, she'll do something good, and you'll be like, oh, she's a good person, but then she'll do something kind of shitty. So everybody's kind of morally gray. Even Michaela Cole herself in the character. So I definitely recommend it. And I mean, I breezed right through it, especially with it being a half hour. And similar to Mrs. America, you think that it'd be kind of like a slog, or it'd be kind of slow. Like, what was the show? My Brilliant Friend, the one that I mentioned before, kind of like just like takes its time, but it moves, and it's a nice slice of British culture as well. It's very British. It's very British. Like, it takes place in London, and she's British. So it's
very tea and crumpets.
Yeah, it's not like that at all either. So
nah. But that's the only thing British people are, is tea and crumpets.
Well, interesting. I had to turn on the subtitles because it's very, their English accent isn't just like Christian Bale British. It's like thick. It's like, in it, and it's just like that fucking, like, just like thick, dude.
I love that your impression of British people is like they in it. Like,
in it
like
there's no consonants.
Like 8 of those together.
It's just like vowels. It's like endless vowels. It's like, oh, you're going up in it. It's like, Jesus Christ. And so I had to turn on the subtitles, which I think I mentioned before that I don't like to do because I like to just like watch it, and I feel like sometimes subtitles ruin jokes if you're watching it for the first time.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Like I had a comedy special on, and I had to turn the subtitles on because for whatever reason, like it was just like we had to keep it quiet, and I was like, just kind of ruin some punchlines every once in a while, depending on how the subtitles come through. But yeah, I could definitely see that. Also, just like especially if you're not used to watching stuff with subtitles, you can definitely like spend too much time like reading and not like actually watching what's going on. Yeah. I think the more you watch of stuff with subtitles, it fits better and you like you get more used to it.
Yeah.
But I definitely can see like that being a problem because it has been a problem for me before.
Yeah, and like I said, I actually I mean I've watched stuff with subtitles before. If I'm rewatching it, what was the movie that I realized? Oh, Casino Royale, one of my favorites. Years ago, I was rewatching it and I put the subtitles on, and I caught like little plot points, little things that I didn't catch the first time. Also because he has a British accent, or like little things like one of the main characters wears a necklace, and I realized that he points it out and he talks about it, and I was like, I have never noticed that because he kind of just. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about when I watch it.
He's just like, and it
got a necklace on. Oh, he pop it. But yeah, I can't recommend both of those shows. Very good. I would say Mrs. America is more like Hollywoody, like more like poppy, like what's a bio, like more biopic-y, you know, kind of like that classic sort of. Not glossy because it does deal with important stuff, but it's more like FXy, more Hollywoody. While I May Destroy You is more like I don't know, more like indie and I mean it's expensive. It's an HBO show, but it's more grounded.
I gotcha.
Yeah, but yeah. So those are the two.
Like the difference between like in games, like an indie game and a AAA game. Like there's more bells and whistles.
Exactly.
Miss America.
Yeah,
I gotcha. Yeah, no, both of those sound good. I'd heard things about I May Destroy You, and just I don't have HBO, and I don't feel like spending money on it, so I haven't.
Well, I think with HBO Max, I really do think it's worth it now. I think you get so many movies and just so many shows. Like after I finish I May Destroy You, I want to start the Harley Quinn show because I've heard great things about that, the animated one.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And I've heard really great things about that, and I think what's the other show? Doom Patrol I've heard is really good too, and then all the other older shows, all the HBO shows. So I do think it's something where it'd be worth it. Like it's not like Apple TV or Apple TV Plus or Peacock or whatever else is out there where they have like a fancy brand behind it, but they just don't have the content there. I think for me now, I think with what they've gotten over the past few months, I think it's like Netflix, number one, of course, still. And then close behind it is Disney Plus, but then close behind it is HBO Max. And then everybody else. Oh, and Hulu, I guess. So I guess the top four, the four horsemen of streaming right now, I would say are those three and Hulu.
Yeah, the Mount Rushmore of streaming services.
Yeah, so I think all four of those would be worth getting. I mean, I know it ends up being, what is that, like $40 a month with between all of them. But I do think that they're worth it.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Just it's only barely related, but I said Mount Rushmore for a reason. Mm-hmm. Did you see that our president asked about being put on Mount Rushmore?
I did not.
Yeah, he apparently like called the fucking governor of like North Dakota or wherever it is and like asked if he could be put on it. This man's insane. All right, sorry. That's all I wanted to go. Like, you know how insane you have to be to like while you're living be like, hey, you want to throw me up there? Like, no. What the fuck?
It's like,
of course not.
Don't those take like 30 years to do? Don't you have to like?
Nah, dog. You slap a sticker up in that motherfucker, and it's a photorealistic projection.
I was gonna say, haven't they been working on a Native American one for like 50 years? Have you seen that? Like the giant one?
I haven't.
And they barely have like the head.
Nah, dog. Woo. Yeah, that just tells you the mindset of our president, that he asked to be on Mount Rushmore. You know, insane. All right. That was it. But yeah.
But what have you been watching?
So I've watched two important things recently.
Mm-hmm.
One of which is the NBA draft lottery.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And as we recently talked about, so let's take a trip back. I think 2 weeks.
2 weeks now. Yeah.
Let's take a long trip back 2 weeks. And if I'm not mistaken, you can hear me talk about how even though the Knicks have always been terrible, we for some reason like never have high draft picks. And you're like, yeah, you have the 3 where you got RJ Barrett, you have 4 where you got Porzingis, and then everything else is like a fucking like 15 at best, right?
Right.
We got 8th, baby. That's so fucking useless. That's so fucking useless and terrible, and I'm so mad about it. How have we always been bad and we not gotten it? We haven't had a number one. Actually, I don't know that's true. I want to say we haven't. That's what I was gonna say. Is it?
Yeah, dude.
That's 85.
Because imagine who else would have been a number one? I'm trying to think.
We got fucking Eddie Curry at one point, but I think we traded for him. And he was not good, but I think he was number one.
And then you guys were mostly good during the 90s, so that would be unlikely.
Yeah, right. So, yeah. No, the answer is probably since 85 with fucking Patrick Ewing. And we've always been bad for as long as I've been alive. Or at least had some modicum of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, known what's going on. Like, been paying attention to sports.
Yeah.
So, like, if you say, like, since I was fucking, like, 8, like, we've been bad. We had, like, a solid 3 years with Carmelo Anthony and Jeremy Lin. That we were, like, a playoff contender. But we were never, like, a title contender with those teams.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. Like,
I'm looking at the list now. Yeah, the Knicks, 85. That was the last time. Since then, the Cavs have had the number one pick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 times.
Jesus Christ, man. So, and one of those was LeBron James. Yes. Another one was Kyrie Irving.
Mm-hmm.
Then Anthony Bennett, they fucked up. Andrew Wiggins didn't really pan out. And I'm trying to think who the other one was.
The other one was Brad Doherty in 86.
Oh, okay. I was like, who? But I feel better knowing that it's a dude from 86. But either way, like, I'm so disappointed. Here's the deal. I didn't want LaMelo Ball. Did not want LaMelo Ball. I think he has all the talent, but, like, I've watched a few videos, and it's like, I just don't know if, like, he plays the way LeVar Ball acts. You know what I mean? Like, he's just like, fuck it, I do what I want. I say what I want. Like he's just out here, like, chucking up threes from half court all the time. And I think, you know, it's very easy that a coach could just be like maybe he'll just buy in. You know what I mean? Like, I've made it to the NBA now. I have to listen or else it's going to go poorly.
Yeah.
But, like, if he doesn't, it's going to be a problem. And so that was out of the question. I don't know shit about Anthony Edwards. I don't know what happened. I don't know where this man came from. Don't have any info on him.
Well, he played for Georgia, right? I think he played for Georgia.
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
But I don't fucking remember anything about Georgia. I don't remember anything about Georgia having what could be the number 2 pick in the fucking draft.
Yeah.
I don't know where he came from.
Yeah, I think he was kind of like, what's his name? Ben Simmons at LSU, where the team was just so shitty around him that it just, like, he just did okay. Like, he put up decent stats, and then nobody paid attention because it's like nobody's gonna, you know, fucking be watching a 20 or a 15 Georgia team. You know.
Right. That's true.
Yeah.
But in my heart of hearts, I was like, maybe we can get James Wiseman, because James Wiseman looks like a fucking beast. He's like 7'3". He's athletic as shit. He just looks dominant. Like, I don't. And that can always change in the NBA. But you know what doesn't change in the NBA? 7'3", baby. Like, you're
length is length.
I can't remember who it was. I can't remember who said it. And it might not be any one person that said it now. It might just be like a common saying. But it's just like, if you're 7 foot tall and you can walk and chew bubblegum at the same time, you can play in the NBA. Like, it's like, if you're 7 foot tall and you have any interest in playing in the NBA, they'll find a way to put you on a team.
Right. Yes.
And so James Wiseman's 7'3" and athletic as shit. And I was like, we can get him. We're gonna make it work. He's like, in my head, I was like, next Anthony Davis. I know that's a stretch. Don't give a fuck. Like, I just want, I want my wildest dreams to come true. And we got 8th.
Yep.
And
you can get Cole Anthony at 8. He might be there.
He will absolutely be there, because why the fuck would you take Cole Anthony at 8? That man couldn't dominate in college. What the fuck is he going to do in the NBA?
New York man. He'd be right at home. But for those, if for people who didn't follow it, the order is Minnesota Timberwolves 1.
They're definitely going to pick. I feel like they have to pick LaMelo Ball. They've already got a big man. I feel like they need a guard.
I think they're going to go. I think they'll do Anthony Edwards.
You think so?
Yeah. I think LaMelo's going to the Hornets, but to the Hornets at 3, the Warriors at 2.
Nah, dog. The Hornets are gonna take. Let me find let me Google a fucking draft board and then give you the name of the dude who should be picked 40th, and that's who MJ's gonna pick. I remember that man picked Frank Kaminsky at fucking 10, and I was like, what are you talking about?
Before Winslow, Justice Winslow, and Devin Booker.
Yeah. That man took Frank Kaminsky, who I don't think anybody thought was anything better than a good college player.
Right, he's 20. He shouldn't have been taken before 20.
He got picked 9. He got picked 9th.
He got picked 9th. Yeah,
insane, dude. MJ sucks.
Yep. Yeah, dude, that was fucking terrible. Especially, I mean, whiffing on Justice Winslow, I'm like, I'll take it. But whiffing on Devin Booker is just oof, it's a fucking huge
Here's
mistake.
the deal. It doesn't even matter to me, because there are always going to be players further back in the draft that are better than who you got unless you nailed it. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's gonna happen.
Right, but there's the difference between getting
Kaminsky. That's the issue. My saving grace when people talk about boy, I almost did it again. Almost did it again, bro. What? Sam Bowie. I almost said David Bowie. You can hear me say "det," and so Sam Bowie. At least the saving grace with Sam Bowie's thing was that one, he got hurt, and two, people did legitimately think he was going to be a great NBA player, and he still even showed flashes of being a very good NBA player after a bunch of injuries. So he just couldn't maintain it.
Yeah, it's have you seen that clip of Jim Boeheim, the old coach? Not Jim Boeheim.
I was like, what?
Jim Boeheim for Syracuse. John Calhoun, when he was at John Calhoun, right? The coach at UConn.
Yeah.
When he was talking about
Jim Calhoun, I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember if it's Jim or John, but anyways, he was talking about missing out on this really good player because he needed. I think he had Karam Butler and Emeka Okafor, or maybe it was Emeka Okafor and somebody else, and he's like, "They're not bad, all right? I fucked up. Is that what you want me to say? That I fucked up and I didn't take this guy? They're not bad. We whiffed on him. We were waiting for something else, and we got Emeka Okafor. Okay, Jesus." And it's in a press conference. So it's that. Yeah. It's like that. It's if you pick a guy that's solid and you whiff on Devin Booker, it's okay, it was a coin flip. But when you fuck up by
Hakeem Olajuwon got picked ahead against Michael Jordan, and no one's like, "Oh, you fucked up." It's no, you still got it. You took Frank Kaminsky, bro.
Right. Exactly. It's if you pick, I don't know who else was taken in 2015. I'm trying to think of who else. I'm sure another Kentucky guy, because that Kentucky team was stacked.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if you take somebody from there and not Devin Booker, you go okay, but look at the tape. But then you look at fucking Frank Kaminsky, and it's like dude, come on, yes.
I looked at the tape and it's terrible. The tape does not even look good.
I mean, he was National Player of the Year, but it's kind of taking, Hansborough ahead of Blake Griffin, which didn't happen, but
yeah, exactly. He was so much better in college. It's yeah, but we all understand that the way he played isn't going to translate. Yeah. So let's see. Just above him was Stanley Johnson. Don't even know who that dude is, so I can't say much there. Emmanuel Mudiay was 2 spots above. He also didn't work out, solid. But people were like, he's like a role
solid
player.
Enough. Yeah.
I don't know. He wasn't the starting point guard for the Knicks. He was on the Knicks and wasn't the starter, which means you're pretty bad. But either way, at least at the time, people were he's tall, he's athletic, he seems like he doesn't have great feel, but that's something he can get more experience. You know what I mean? All of that. Mm-hmm. But bro, I the moment they picked Frank Kaminsky, I left. So we're gonna pick. That's who the Hornets are gonna pick at 3. They're gonna pick fucking Frank Kaminsky the third, and Yeah. Then Golden State has 2, right?
Yep. Yeah, Golden State at 2, and I think
they're gonna take Wiseman. They have to. They need a big man.
Yes.
He's athletic. It works perfect if you have Clay and Steph already. You can tell Draymond to get the fuck out of here and stop ruining everything. And then you just put him in the center.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, so they got 2, and so we'll see what that. I think they'll trade down, but we'll see. Bulls at 4, Cavs at 5, Hawks at 6, Pistons 7, Knicks, Wizards, Suns, Spurs for the first time since '97, Kings, Pelicans, and the Celtics.
Yeah. So I saw a mock draft that said we were gonna pick up Cillian Murphy. Is his name right? No,
no. Cillian Murphy is the actor from Batman.
Right after I said it, I was like, that's definitely not right. Killian Hayes?
I think, yeah.
Okay. God, bro, Cillian Murphy. All right. Whew. All right, Killian Hayes. We're gonna pick him up, but we're not. I can go ahead and tell you not. We're gonna pick up Frank Kaminsky the fourth because James Dolan runs the team. So I'm already got my fucking tank shirts for fucking 2021 ready. Fucking RJ Barrett goes fucking 1 for 19 every game like a shitty Carmelo. Yeah, I'm super hyped for next season. Can't you tell? Can't you tell how much I love being a Knicks fan?
Mm-hmm. But I mean, you never know, dude. I mean, like, you know, some of these, if you look at the drafts, you know, you see some guys in the rough at 7 and 8 and 9 and shit, you know.
Yeah.
Like even Giannis was taking 13, and I know he's, you know, once in a generation type player, but you could strike gold somewhere along there, right? And even if they're not great, you at least get a guy maybe like Chris Middleton, who I think is great. You know, he's worth that max contract.
Yeah.
But you know that it's not the end. You don't get the generational ones, but you get pretty good role players, or you get the role players that could become generational.
Yeah, I mean, we picked Porzingis at 4, and now he plays for the Mavericks, and they're doing great with him. So yep. It's another one that's just left and we watch him bloom somewhere else. Yeah. It's pretty dope. But yeah, so that's how the Knicks is. You know what's funny is I was talking to my dad because he's also a Knicks fan, and that's how I became a Knicks fan. And I was like, they've basically never been good since like they had one small stretch of being good since I started paying attention to the Knicks. And he was like, you understand I've never seen them win a title either. I was like, fuck, that's awful. That's so shitty. And then we started talking. We can maybe talk about it for a second, but it's just like, what does it have to feel like? So, like, you're a Lakers fan?
Kinda.
You're not
like
super,
I like LeBron.
Yeah,
just gonna follow LeBron. Yeah.
Okay, so aside from that, like, you're a Cowboys fan, and do you really follow any of the other sports?
Not baseball, not hockey. So basically, just the Cowboys and college basketball. But that's about it.
So here's the deal. You're even standing from a privileged standpoint of college basketball and LeBron because LeBron is always doing well, and so are the Tar Heels. But like, as a Cowboys fan, do you ever wonder like what would it feel like to be a Patriots fan? Right? Like you just fucking win. Like you're just always like everyone's like could go to the Super Bowl. Your quarterback. Your ex-quarterback had more rings than any other NFL team. Like your one quarterback, because he's got 7, right? Isn't that it?
He's got 6. He's tied with the Steelers
and us, right?
Yeah.
We're at 6.
No, we're at
5.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, but like, how insane is it? Like, how?
Dude, yeah. He went to the Super Bowl 9 out of his 20 years there.
That's as a fan, how do you process? Like, do you stop caring? He's like, going and then back
people
were
like,
Super
they get
Bowl.
pissed about the fucking the Eagles Super Bowl, or they get pissed about 18-1, and I'm like, what are you talking about? It's kind of like when we were talking about 2 weeks ago about
the collapse where it's like the Giants. You're like, I love a collapse where I win 2 Super Bowls.
After 2 Super Bowls. I'm like, shut up, just shut the fuck up.
So, but for me, I have the Yankees that are generally good, but I don't really follow baseball like that.
Yeah.
And then I've got the Cowboys who have won 2 championships within the first 3 years of my life, which I obviously don't remember. And
nonsense.
And nonsense. And the Knicks have been bad forever. Like, I'm gonna fucking nut, dude. If
the Cowboys win or the Knicks ever win anything.
Yeah, dude. I'm literally gonna just fucking nut. I'm gonna like pass out and just be laid out in the middle of my fucking living room.
Well, that's how I feel too. I mean, like, so Like it just for me, like dude, like Cowboys have had so little success in the postseason that literally for me, like to me in my mind, professional football is just like a regular season thing. Like
Right, and
I can't even imagine postseason success.
like
Like what a deep run feels like. Like for me, it's like, oh, dude, we went 12-4. That was awesome. Right, next season starts now. Right?
What's funny, and then it's the exact. It's got to be the exact opposite for Patriots fans. They
Yeah.
got to be like whatever, 12-4. Like that's a bad year for us. Like,
We went
whatever.
14-2, whatever, for the fucking third year out of four, whatever. And because the Cowboys haven't been like they haven't been shitty. That's the thing is that they haven't been like the Lions or the Browns, right? Because
Right.
they had in
Good old
2007 they
Jason
went
Garrett, 8-8, baby. Let's go.
8-8, but then also in 2007 they went 13-3. 2014 they went 12-4. In 2016 they went 13-3, I think, or 13-3 or 14-2.
This was the DeMarco Murray years, right?
Yeah, well, the 14 was, and then 16 was Zeke and Dak came in. So,
Right.
Yeah, I think they went, I think 13-3 that year. But those are great seasons, and that's 3 great seasons in the last 13,
That
14
still
years.
ended like first or second round of the playoffs.
Yeah, first round, and then the 14 we went to that was the Green Bay game.
Yeah, Des caught it.
Yeah,
Des caught it. Fuck you, Des caught it.
and so it's like fuck, like even like that's what I'm saying. Like we went 12-14 in 2014, and I'm like, cool, good season. All right, next year.
Right at this point, like I'd almost rather just be bad. I feel like
Oh, just no, dude. I'm okay with taking going 6-2 halfway through the season. I'm okay with that because it's like fuck yeah, fuck you, we're going to the Super Bowl, right?
yeah, but then just so many first round exits hurts. Because let's put it this way, I went into we didn't make the playoffs last season, right?
No, because we kept fucking up. Yeah.
Year before that, I think we did, right?
Yes, and we beat Seattle.
Okay, we beat Seattle and then lost the next round, right?
Yeah, to the Rams.
Yep. Okay, so we beat Seattle, and the whole time the Seattle game I was like, we're definitely gonna lose this. And then the Rams game started. I was like, we're definitely gonna lose this. It's such an awful way to go through the postseason. It's like there's no way we're gonna win this game. It's not meant to happen.
Yeah, I mean, well, the Rams game, that one was fucking terrible because it's like they just ran it on us every time, and it wasn't even Gurley. It was the other
fucking
guy,
C.J. Anderson.
5 yards of carry every single time, and even then, I mean, we only lost by 8, I think. So there was a chance at the end, and that's when it's like fuck. Even though they destroyed us every single phase of the game, we still had a chance at the end.
Ain't nothing worse than staying up late on a Sunday and then watching your team fucking choke one away in the last minutes and then going to work the next day tired. That's the worst feeling on earth. And we've experienced it so many times.
Sucks. Anyway.
All right, so enough sports talk. The other thing I've been watching
Yes.
or watched was, first of all, I know I talked about how I never rewatch movies.
Mm-hmm.
I rewatched Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Nice.
I just happened to be coming across it on, I laid down with Kaylin, was just, turned on Netflix. Wasn't even planning to watch anything. Was planning on just hanging out for, literally, 5 or 10 minutes and then getting up to do something. And, I was just, scrolling down through Netflix, and I saw it. It was one of the first 2 options on whichever, row. And I was like, I kind of want to watch that again. And so I decided to turn it on. I watched it, and it brought me to a question. And I'm going to pose this question to you, which is, what are your top 5 favorite comic book movies? Superhero movies.
Yes. So I do have a list. And, first thing, when you said Kaylin, I thought you were going to say my wife. And I was fucking ready to go, my wife!
King of the castle, King of the castle.
It's so funny, dude, because I was telling my girlfriend that anytime I'm listening to a podcast, just in the car, or at work, or at home,
please don't even say it out loud.
Anytime the host goes, oh yeah, so I was watching this movie with my wife, I go, my wife! Just by myself.
What's funny is that a group of people I play with on PlayStation, every time someone died once, and it was oh, my life, and so now every time someone does, my life,
my life. uh,
So yeah, fuck. I'm glad I avoided it because
yeah.
I would have completely forgot what we were talking about because I almost did already.
Uh, but yeah, so I do have my list of five. And when you asked me to do this, there's like I picked five that are my favorite comic book movies that are the most comic booky, that are the most fucking like when I think this is a comic book brought to life, this is what I think of.
Hmm.
Um, I didn't put Spider Verse on it just because I knew that you were going to talk about it because you talked about it. So that might I'm sure that I might switch in and out of my list if you were to ask me tomorrow.
Hmm.
So that's one reason. So that's one of criteria sort of that I mentally did put on myself. And another one, so I left stuff out like Logan because I feel like that's a very good movie that just happens to be a comic book movie. Do you
Right,
know what I
right,
mean?
right, right.
Like
Yeah,
it's like an old western where Logan is in it.
yeah.
And another movie that I think does that is I had it in my mind and I can't really remember what it was. But anyway, so I can go through my five if you want. I know we have some crossover, so we can end with the
Also, I'd like to
crossover,
point. Yeah,
or we
yeah.
can start
Let's
with the
end with the
crossover.
crossover because I have. We can talk about some of my list and kind of bring shoehorn the one in also.
Oh, we got two. We got two crossovers. Now that I'm looking at the list,
Do we?
yeah, the number four on both of ours.
Oh shit! How did I miss that? What the
Yes.
fuck? I don't think I'm able to read.
So we can start with that one and then end with the other one.
Okay.
Like the first one on both of our lists is Marvel's The Avengers from
Yes, the Avengers.
yeah 2012. Written, directed, Joss Whedon. The first time they were all brought together. And just for the sake of time, I think we should just go through and just kind of name a couple things we like and just keep it moving.
Okay.
Um,
So for
but yeah,
me,
yeah,
the
why'd you
Avengers
pick
gets
that one?
extra bonus points just because it was like mind blowing. Like the first time it happened, and they were all there, like, fuck, like this is
Yes,
so lit.
yeah,
It like kind of almost spoiled the rest of the Avengers movies, like um, Age of Ultron and Endgame and Infinity War, which were all great. But
mhm,
like there was something just so special. And also in that movie they were still like in comic book outfits. Like I feel like by the time you get to like Infinity War and Endgame, they're wearing like modern versions of what they would wear.
yes.
Which is
Well,
fine.
which is fine.
I think
I
it's
think you're
good.
right, and
It
I
makes
think
it
it's
feel more
good.
grounded in those in like just because it seems more realistic, it feels more grounded and the stakes naturally feel a little higher. But
Mhm.
like the in Avengers, like I think Captain America's still wearing like the bright blue. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
dude, that
like
costume is terrible. That's what I was gonna say.
it is so bad, but it
It's
like
so bad.
but it works because it's like the absolute pinnacle of what a comic book on screen should do when they're all standing in the middle of the highway
Mm-hmm.
and it does the panning shot around them.
Yeah, that iconic shot where it spins around. Yeah,
Yeah, like that's the most like I'm in a fucking comic book.
yeah,
It
yes.
nails it so perfect.
Yeah. So I have a bunch of thoughts about the Avengers. Like I'm like right there with you. I think it's like I'm trying to see if I can put this as concise as I can. Um, Bob Chipman, we talked
Yep.
about it. Yeah, he's done a video about really that good about the Avengers, where he says, not only was this like brought them all together, but it brought them all together, and it's also good, right? Like it's
Right.
also very very good. Like it's clever, it moves. The villain plot is that classic or is that fucking annoying late 2000s I plan to get caught thing, which I'm
Yep.
sure will come up in a little bit again. Um, but it's you're right. I mean, everything you said, I back up 100%. The costumes are great, and it's the first time they all come together,
The
and you're
costumes
like,
are bad, but they're great. Like
yes,
and you already said that, but like you just said, it was great again. And it's like you said, the Captain America shit looks terrible, like on its own. But it's like
that's
fuck it, bro. I'm in a comic book.
yeah, and I think it's the best. So I'm conflicted about the costumes because it's the worst Captain America outfit, but it fits. It's the worst Thor looks because his suit looks all plasticky, but that's what it is. What it is because they hadn't gotten it down yet, and him himself isn't that great because they hadn't Ragnaroked him yet.
Yeah.
Um, it's the best Iron Man suit because he has a jetpack, so he doesn't have to do the hands thing.
Right.
It's the best Hulk. It's the most realistic and the best I think Hulk looks in any of the movies. I think in every other movie he looks a little fake, and I don't know if it's just the color scheme of the green or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Um, and I was gonna say one more thing. The best guy, and it's got the just fucking awesome fights. It's just so well done. But yeah, I could go on and on. I mean, I remember, dude. I remember when I went to see it that summer in 2012, and going into it, like I was excited for it because I had liked Thor and I had liked Iron Man and I had liked
Hmm.
Captain America, but I wasn't like, oh my god, this is amazing, or like I can't wait. Um, the one that I was excited for that summer was The Dark Knight Rises. So for me,
Right.
it was like I was like, you know, that the fucking meme of the guy turning around in the street and his girlfriend going like,
Yeah.
yeah, like that.
Yeah.
So for me, I was walking with
With
fucking The Dark Knight Rises, and then Avengers walked by when it came out because I was like, this is insane. Like I remember I went to see it with my sister and my mom, and they sat in the back because it was packed, and I sat near the front. Dude, at the end fight scene, dude, people were clapping and cheering and fucking losing their minds. Like, last quick thing I'll say, so we can move on, just so I stop
right.
fucking going nuts over the
Drooling
Avengers.
over the Avengers. Yeah. No, I'm with
Dude,
you.
there is a shot that now, looking back on it, just because we've seen everything else before, but when the shot happened, my mind was fucking like had exploded all over the seats next to me. And it was there's a long take where I don't know if you remember. It starts with like Iron Man flying, and it like goes to Hawkeye, and then it goes down to the street.
Yeah.
Iron Man shoots his beam into Captain America's shield,
Yep.
and he bounces it off. Dude, I swear I let an audible sound out of my mouth when that
You're
happened.
like,
I literally was like,
oh.
oh, oh, oh! Like just like that, like a borderline squeal. I was like, because, dude, up until then, I'd never seen anything like that. Like that is like even with the X-Men movies, there hadn't been a good X-Men movie like that where the powers are used like together, right? So he does that, lands, shoots a beam on the shield, bounces off. I was like,
You know what? Fuck, dude. I'm gonna fuck the pooch, screw the pooch on this one. But did you ever? Do you still have your 360?
I don't know. I don't.
Oh, okay. So there was a game that originally came out like right when the 360 came out, I think, called
Mm-hmm.
Marvel's Ultimate Alliance.
Mm-hmm.
That game is first of all fucking perfect, and second of all, like it's got. I'm gonna throw a random number out here, and it's just going to be literally pulled out of my ass. 30 superheroes, and like the coolest thing of that is like you have your group of four that you create,
Mm-hmm.
and like they all have different moves they can do with each other. And it's like that same like you
It,
saw like this the shield like laser bounce off. Like if you
mm-hmm.
have like the Hulk or Colossus and Wolverine, like they throw Wolverine and like Wolverine like
Right.
spears them with the fucking claws. And it's
And if
like
you like
shit like
Spider-Man, he like you can like swing Spider-Man or something at somebody and
yeah,
everything.
exactly. Shit like that. Like Hulk will like just what's the fucking Olympic event called?
Fuck the with the ball.
Yeah.
Oh, you throw like the wait, no, you spin that thing and you go.
Yeah, yeah. It's got the handle and it's extended and
Yeah.
you just I don't know what the fuck it's called, dude. Some fuck, dude. All right. So we're just gonna leave that. But anyways, that's like super dope, and that's like kind of what you're talking about. Like the first time you see like everything pieced together, and not just like here you watched Iron Man shoot someone, and now here's Captain America throwing his shield, and now it's like they're interacting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that was super dope.
Yeah.
So yeah. So let's stop talking about the Avengers. So
Oh yeah. Last thing. I
okay.
saw that movie 4 times in theaters. And that is
God
still
damn!
to this day. To this day, it's still the most
Done.
times I've ever seen a movie. I saw it with my mom and my sister. Then I saw it with some friends. Then I saw it with my dad. Then I saw it with my girlfriend at the time, dude. Like I was like, I need to see this movie again and again. I was like,
That's amazing.
yeah,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I don't think I've ever gone to. No, I've definitely gone to a movie twice in theaters, but I can't even remember what it was.
Yeah, there's a few that I have that are 3 times, just because it was like with my brother and then like some other friends that wanted to see it.
Yeah,
But the Avengers is still the only one that was 4 times.
yeah. So
Yeah.
definitely worth it.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
So what's your next movie?
My next one is Batman Begins.
Okay.
So it's Batman Begins, 2005, directed by Christopher Nolan, written by Christopher Nolan. I think with him and David S. Goyer wrote it, and David S. Goyer, he was pretty much in charge of the Blade movies, the 3 that came out. He wrote them, so he was behind that one, and he's done a couple of TV things, but it's mainly the Christopher Nolan show for this one.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the reboot with Christian Bale and Morgan Freeman and everybody else, and it's fantastic. I think it's his most comic booky Batman one, right?
Yeah.
Um, and the story's great. I know some people don't like the water steamer thing finale,
I don't
but
even
I think
remember.
it's Ra's al Ghul. Fuck. Well, spoilers for fucking Batman Begins. Liam Neeson's Ra's al Ghul. He put some fucking crazy psycho poison in the water supply of Gotham City,
Yeah.
and he's gonna vaporize it to make everybody kill them, or not kill them, but go crazy and destroy the city.
Mhm.
But it's fine. Like people go like, oh, it's dumb. But I'm like, it's a fucking super villain
Yeah,
scheme,
exactly.
dude. It's it's no different than what fucking what's his name, the Joker does, the Jack Nicholson Joker does with the gas and the balloons and shit in the '89 version.
Yeah.
And I like it. And Bale is great in it. He's great as Bruce and as Batman. The fight scenes aren't that great. It's really sometimes they're hard to see. But the car stuff is all good. The fucking Batmobile is great. And also one thing I noticed that I rewatched both of them early in quarantine because my girlfriend hadn't seen either one, and so I was like, let's watch Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and then Rises. We can just we'll fucking do that later. Do another day. And dude, I noticed he doesn't like, so you know that Batman voice, like when people go do the Batman voice, you'll go. He doesn't do that in Batman Begins, and I don't know why he started doing that. Like in Batman Begins, he says, maybe he might put like a gruff voice or something. He'll be like, "Where were the drugs going? I'll get him." Just like a little bit of gruff, but watch scenes and he sounds just like normal Christian Bale.
Yeah.
In The Dark Knight, and by The Dark Knight Rises, that's when he's like,
yeah, fucking. So you watch him in Batman Begins, he puts a little bit of gruff on. He's like, "What are you, a fucking amateur?" Do you know what I'm talking about?
just
Where he
like
fucking shits. No, I mean where he shits on the Terminator, dude. Because you were like on the set of Terminator.
Oh yeah.
You were like, he sounds just like regular Christian Bale.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It's like, what are you, a fucking amateur?
But
that's one of my best favorite rants ever, though.
Him
the Terminator shitting on that lighting, dude. Yeah, he goes so hard.
But
yeah, the dude that says like, "I'm sorry," and he's like, "It doesn't fucking matter if you're sorry because now it's ruined." He's so mad.
And somebody was talking on Twitter this week about how, like every single side character is really good, right? Like Cillian Murphy, who you mentioned before, good Scarecrow, but he's not the main villain, right? Like all the villains are brought in, and they fit just enough so that they fit well, and nobody goes, "Well, that was shitty. Why is he in there?" Tom Wilkinson plays Falcone, and he's in it for like 5 minutes total, but he does a good job being who he is. But
I need to go back and rewatch it because like every time I think of that movie, I'm like, why the fuck was Scarecrow even there? I don't even remember why.
So he's the one that creates the toxin that Liam Neeson then amplifies and steals from him.
Oh, okay.
But it's like just enough that
he's memorable, but like he doesn't overtake the story.
Right. Because it's kind of if you think about it, it's like kind of a wacky thing. Like you scare people and shit.
Yeah.
And
so, go ahead.
But I'm trying to find the tweet that somebody said this week about it, where they were saying how everybody goes, "Oh, it's the dark and gritty ones," right? Like, they're all dull and they're like bleak and shit, and like it's just murder and stuff. But I'm like, no, like the first one is pretty funny. Like there's like a lot of good humor, and they do that thing where they repeat lines like from previous parts of the movie. But like they're light and they're funny, and what's his name? Michael Caine's Alfred has like good like back and forth with him all the time. So
yeah,
definitely rewatch it, and you'll see that it's not much better than you remember, but it's aged really, really well.
Definitely. But that brings me to my next movie, which is The Dark Knight. I think The Dark Knight is really solid. It's just so good. Like, it never lets up. You know what I mean? And like, there are definitely problems with the plot. You know what I mean? Like as far as like things making logical sense. But with that being said, like I think because it moves at such a fast pace, it's not worried about catching every detail. You know what I mean? It's like, nah, dog, we're on to the next one. Shit's blowing up. You know what I mean? Like the Joker's at play, and if anything, it kind of like amplifies just what the Joker is, because like it's literally just supposed to be chaos. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and so it's like if you're fucking constantly like moving forward, you don't even think about like the last step or the next step.
Mm-hmm.
You're just like still trying to figure out what the fuck's going on right now. And I it's just I think it's really good. Heath Ledger's obviously great.
Yeah.
Christian Bale's still good. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think I think you're right. I think I agree with everything. And I think we were talking about recording this about how like I'm somebody who prefers Batman Begins to The Dark Knight. Just because I think there's like, and I think that switch has happened recently. Because I was like Dark Knight, Dark Knight. The Dark Knight is another one that's a 3-time. I saw that movie 3 times in theaters. And there's like little things that you kind of go like that sort of ding it, right? Like the Joker's plan is a little too convoluted. Like it's like he planned to get caught because he knew that Lau would be there, but he knew Batman would be there, but he knew that the guy would be on the cell phone, and he knew that guy was gonna let him, coax him into taking the, like a bunch of like convenient shit. And then there's like scenes just sometimes just like drop or just end. Like when Rachel gets thrown out of the window and Batman saves her.
Right.
And he like catches her and he's like, and she's like, "Is Harvey okay?" And he goes, "He's safe." And then that's it. Like the scene ends. I'm like, wait, what about the Joker? Wasn't the Joker just up there? Like, couldn't you just block all the exits and make sure the Joker doesn't leave the fucking building? Right? Like, is he gonna kill Michael Caine up there? Like, right? So there's like little things like that where like scenes sort of cut out, and there's just so much movie that sometimes they feel like the short shrift. But yeah, that Ledger performance is just so good and so magnetic that it sort of just there's no way that you can say that it's like not a good movie.
The fucking opening scene is so lit. You know what I mean? Like it hits you with the bullshit right off the jump. You know what I mean? Like you're so ready for everything that's gonna happen in that movie just based off the opening, like bank heist.
Yeah. And it's another one of those like show don't tell type of movies. Like you get the Joker's sense of humor by like the way he shoots that guy without looking at him. The slaughter is the best medicine on the truck. The fire truck being on fire, like all that, you sort of like that kind of shit. You get a lot of that kind of stuff, but yeah.
So and I still to this day, again, if I'm playing like a random if I'm playing like a fighting game with someone, I'll just be like, "Hey, mate." Like when he's like walking down the street, like firing the gun off, and he's trying to get fucking Batman to run him over. He's like, "Hey, mate." So it's just got a bunch of quotable lines. It's just a great movie. And again, one of the worst scenes of all time where Harvey Dent doesn't realize it's a Joker, so he takes off the nurse mask, which is hilarious because his whole face is fucking painted. He's got the hair. He's very obviously a man. And Harvey Dent's sitting there looking at him. He takes the mask off. He's like, oh! like his whole body shakes super hard. It's hilarious.
I'm not wearing hockey pads.
Oh, God. All right. Well, all right. So what's your next movie?
Yeah, my next one is Captain America: The First Avenger. And so, this is another one that has aged really well for me. When I first watched it in 2011, I was like, "This is okay." And this was the the fourth entry into the MCU, the last one before Avengers, and it's
was it? I don't know why I thought the Thor was the last one, but you're probably right. You're consistently more accurate. But
because Thor came out in May of 2011, and then this one was July. And so I watched it, and I was like, "This is good." Like it was all right. But then in sort of watching future Captain Americas and future MCU movies, you sort of see how much it depends on the first Avenger nailing a bunch of shit. Specifically, 3 things. One, the relationship with him and Peggy, which becomes this fucking cornerstone relationship that ends up being paid off in Endgame 22 movies later or whatever, or 18 movies later. Where the last shot in Endgame is them dancing. Like, that's how important it was for them to nail the relationship with Peggy. Like, imagine them putting that much emphasis on the relationship with Natalie Portman from Thor, right? Like, she's in Endgame, but he doesn't even see her. And it's like, oh, yeah, she's around here somewhere in this castle. Yeah, cool. So that's one.
Yeah. Fuck all that.
Yeah, fuck all that. I'm having a panic attack. I gotta talk to my mom. 2 is the relationship with Stanley Tucci's doctor. I forget his name is, what the name of the doctor is. But they have this fucking perfect conversation before he gets the procedure, where he tells him why he was chosen for the procedure. And he tells him, we didn't pick somebody physically strong, because a strong man doesn't know the value of power. And, a weak man knows that. But what's important is that you're good, and it's what's in here that matters.
Right. And that's such an overwhelming, like, that's so important that they nailed that for that character, because that's literally, like, going into comic books, which is what we're talking about. We're talking comic book superhero movies right now. Like, in the comic books, like, Captain America's number one strength above the super soldier serum or whatever is just, like, his indomitable will.
Right.
Like, that's, like, if you go back to, like, all the comics, like, it always comes down to a point where, like, no bullshit, it's I can do this all day. Like, that's what he is.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
it's like I can beat the shit out of everyone and take all the hits, but, like, my spirit will never be broken.
Right.
And also, like, it probably that makes sense just also on a very obvious level of, like, what people aspire for America to be. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Which is that, like, even in our worst, like, we will not back down. We will continue to persevere. Like, all of that. You know what I mean?
But I think they do such a good job of doing that where it doesn't become something. How can I say? Like a fucking. Oh, they do that without becoming fucking JJ Watt. Do you know what I'm saying? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Right, where it's like, so everyone like fucking salute, yeah, hell yeah, like he's Captain America without becoming JJ Watt and John Cena. You know what I mean? Like, it's a very thin line where being good and being compassionate can become corny.
Right.
And I'm not saying that it's inevitable, but I'm saying, like, they had to nail that. So that's 2. And then 3.
Look how lit would it have been if the first time Captain America came out as Captain America, like, after the serum, you just heard, like, just bam, bam, bam.
Fucking Doctor of Thugonomics of the MCU.
All right, dude came out with the fucking armband and the hat, dude. All right.
I mean, in the hat, yeah. Doing that thing where he, like, put the pinkies up and he put his fist together. You remember that?
Yes. All right. So, what was your third thing?
The third thing, this will wrap up the movie. Is just casting Chris Evans.
Yeah.
Who I think RDU is, like, perfect, right? He, like, started it off. His casting is perfect, but as time went on, I think his Evans' casting of Captain America is just as fucking important. I don't think.
Absolutely.
I don't think. As
RDJ is what you're saying?
Yeah,
equally,
right? Equally. I don't think I don't think the series or the MCU as a whole reaches the heights without his heart starting around, like, Winter Soldier. I think he becomes the heart of the MCU, and then RDJ is, like, the personality, the outgoingness. But the heart, it always comes back to him later on. I don't think Endgame succeeds if it's just RDJ carrying everything. If it's not Evans on the other side being his equal.
Right, and again, back to the comic book things, that's what it was in the comics as well. Like, Captain America, like everyone bitched at each other. Like, all the Avengers had, like, other problems. Like, and you see it in the Avengers movie, or Ultron, I can't remember which, where, like, Hulk and Tony are, like, bitching at each other, like, on, like, about the science or whatever of how something should or shouldn't be done.
Yeah.
And, like, those types of things would happen with all the heroes. And then the answer was that, like, Cap, because, like, all he had was, like, just he's, like, the perfect human, like, both in terms of the super soldier and also just like we're doing this as a team, like, can't be stopped. Like, he always came and pulled it together, and the Avengers never would have worked without him in the comics. You know what I mean? Because he, like, it would just fall apart. Everyone would be bitching at each other too much. And again, I think nailing Chris Evans kind of reinforces that as well in the movie universe, and, like, makes it work better.
Yeah. But yeah. So my third one is my third one is First Avengers. Or First Avengers, sorry.
All right, so mine is Iron Man, which is the other perfect pairing of the. Sometimes this shit comes together so well that I feel like we it's like we rehearsed which answer we were gonna give next, but I swear to God we didn't. But, like, yeah, the other half of what you said was, like, the perfect casting, and, like, I don't know that it would have worked. Like you said, like, Chris Evans really comes into his own and becomes what he is and what's needed. Like you said, Winter Soldier. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know that we would have successfully gotten there without Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because, like, Thor was okay, Captain America was okay, at least at the time, and, like, even you admit it seems like, maybe Captain America gets better based on what we've seen later.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But like, at the time I wasn't super crazy about either of those, but Iron Man fucking nailed it. And so like that, if you were creating this universe with a bunch of characters whose like first movie was like it's good, you know what I mean? Like I don't know that Avengers would feel as good. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
and so like Iron Man being able to pull that off, Robert Downey Jr. being perfect, and it's so funny to me because Iron Man in the comics fucking sucks, dude. Iron Man sucks. His villains suck. He's corny. He's trash, dude.
Yeah. I mean, I saw a
They're
couple.
drawn poorly. Like they're just bad comics, straight up. And like now, every iteration of Iron Man, like since then, has just been like, we'll just try and make Robert Downey Jr. like,
Yes, yeah, that's I saw a couple of tweets about that, about how like before he was just like a very somber, just kind of like Bruce Wayne-y type guy, like their answer to Bruce Wayne.
yeah, his point in
Um,
the Avengers was just like to be the money. Like
yeah.
that's all he was in the Avengers for was just like we use Stark Tower. Like that's all he's there for. Like we use his tower. He just
Hmm.
kind of hangs
Hmm.
out. We use his tower, and he fronts us all the money for the fucking jets and shit. You know what I mean? Like he sucked. And then Robert, boy, I should just kill myself. Robert Downey Jr. Uh, like nailed it so perfectly that every single iteration came after. They're like, that's what we're aiming for because that's the only version of this that's ever been good. And it's just like I said, I don't think you get to the Avengers without that. I
Yeah.
think you lose steam, or at least if you get the Avengers doesn't become what it is. You know what
Right.
I mean?
Yep. Yep.
So
Absolutely.
that's on my list as well. So now we're getting to the nitty gritty here at the very end. So what's your next movie?
Yeah, my next one is my penultimate entry is Wonder Woman. 2017, directed by Patty Jenkins, starring
Mm-hmm.
Gal Gadot. And I think it's actually co-written by Zack Snyder. So
Oh.
it's his story, it's his screenplay. Co-starring also another Chris Pine, who I think is the best Chris out of all of them.
Insane. Insane,
As much
dude.
as I love as I talked about Chris Evans, I think Chris Pine is the best one. I think.
Nah, dog. That the clip alone of Chris Evans spitting game and the fucking Letterman jacket or the fucking jacket in the tunnel.
Oh, with the girl, and he gives her the
Yeah,
phone.
yeah, dude, bro. That
Uh,
alone
uh,
is fucking top notch, Chris, dude. He
yeah.
takes the number one spot
But
off the fucking game.
I in I know you mentioned Spider Verse, right? That'll be your next one. But I think his work in Spider Verse is so good too, and he's not even in it that long.
I
Uh,
forgot that I remembered when I watched it. Like I remember as I was watching it again, I was like, oh yeah, this is Chris Pine.
yeah.
And then like I forgot about it before we got to this, but he is in that. So go
Yeah,
ahead.
and he in his scene with Miles where he tells him, he's like, "Oh, you're like me," and he's like, I don't know if I want to do this. And he's like, "Well, dude, you don't really have a choice." So it's such
Yeah,
a
he's like, it doesn't seem like you really have a choice.
yeah, it's so good, and I think it's unlike any scene I've ever seen before. But we'll get to it in a little bit. But he's in it, and so yeah, Wonder Woman, so good, and it's not just a good superhero movie, but a good World War I movie. And
I think that's the reason I haven't watched it.
oh, but it's so good that it's just you haven't watched it. Oh, dude, it's so good. It's the best DC movie that they've made. I think the best of the extended universe shit that they've done recently, like with Aquaman and all those. I think this one's the best one. Not. I would say that the rest of them are like Thor ish, like maybe a little bit better than Thor. They're like Ant-Man and
Right.
Thor, and this is like an Iron Man to that.
Right.
Um,
I really gotta be introspective and realize that like all these movies that are like lead role women are the ones I haven't watched.
well, Chris Pine's, he's
Fuck.
co-headline and as much of a revelation as Downey Jr. is in Iron Man, or even Chris Pine is in Star Trek, the reboot.
Yeah.
Gal Gadot is in this one. She's excellent. She's charismatic and she's very good at action, and of course she's very beautiful. So and she fucking knocks it out of the park. As much of like a breakout role as anybody can be.
Right.
And the relationship is very good between her and Pine, which I think is something that we touched on when we just talked about the first Avenger, about him and Peggy. Um, but the finale is a little lackluster. It sort of descends into that sort of CGI fight bullshit
Right.
stuff. But I don't mind because, like I've talked about before, by the time if a movie's good enough, by the third act, it's playing with house money, and I don't mind.
Right.
But yeah, so yeah, that's my other one. Wonder Woman. We should have already seen the sequel by now, but COVID had other plans.
Yeah. So now I'm gonna go to my next to last entry, and it's going to start this whole fucking whirlwind at the end, which is that I have the first Spider-Man movie, the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie,
Mm.
um, as my second best movie. That one we talked about it before. Like I can't believe Tobey Maguire pulled off being Spider-Man, and I believed it. Like I was 100% in on Tobey Maguire being Spider-Man.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
And looking back, I don't know how. Like I don't know how I didn't see Tobey Maguire and was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like I don't understand.
Yeah.
But he fucking nailed it, dude. Fucking bone saw. That's my fucking second point for that movie.
Yeah.
That scene's great. That scene's actually great. I understand it's hilarious. It's also actually great. And then the villain in that one was the Green Goblin, right?
Yep. Willem Dafoe.
Willem Dafoe was great. That just really nailed it all together, and we wouldn't have this conversation at all without that movie.
Yes. Yep.
Like
yep.
it is what set off people to be like, hold on, like superhero movies can be very successful and good, and not just good because they're superhero movies, but good like independently of being the superhero movie.
Yeah, but yeah, absolutely. And I think and good, but not be fucking afraid of being comic book movies, right?
Right.
And so my next one is Spider-Man, but it's specifically Spider-Man 2. And
Right.
so we'll just do the Raimi thing with the first two, and we sort of talk about those. But I think
they feel like the same movie. Like, and I guess like not the same movie, but like they're inseparable in my head. Like
Yes.
1 and 2 are just like a really long film.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. Like they both have the same sort of sensibilities. And I think even though the X-Men movie came before it, I think the X-Men movie like is afraid to be a comic book movie. It's like, they're flying in the jet and they're wearing all black, and he goes, "This is the uniform," and he goes, "What did you expect? Yellow spandex?" And it's like, "Get it? Haha, get it? We don't do that shit. This is 2000, man. We don't do fucking comic book shit here. We take what we want and we leave all the comic book shit behind."
Yeah. Not Spider-Man.
But not Spider-Man. Like the suit could have been fucking like just dark and bleak, but it's not. It's bright. It's red. The fucking Green Goblin shit, which it's not like comic book faithful, but it like gets the job
done. It doesn't
done.
Shy away from it either.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like it's different.
Green. It's fucking green.
Yeah.
It could have easily done like a
it's
black
like bright,
and hooded.
Yeah, it's bright green and it looks like a fucking goblin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
He could have just been a dark, flying, scary guy. You know
Right,
what I mean?
yeah. He could have been like the Doctor Doom from that shitty Fantastic Four movie. Remember? When he's just like in a trench coat and he's like metal.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, everything you said about it, I totally agree with. And something that I've noticed that I didn't notice when I was a kid, because it's like one of the first comic book movies that I saw, and kind of like how you said you didn't notice Tobey Maguire being goofy. I didn't notice certain things that Sam Raimi does in Spider-Man 1 and 2 that I just thought were kind of par for the course, or just sort of things that just are done in movies that are actually sort of little specific flares that he puts in. Like, for example, if you remember...
I haven't seen them in a very long time, so you may blow my brain right now. Let's go.
So, in the first one where he's thinking about designs, about his wrestling names, right?
Yeah.
And then there's like this... like this holographic like MJ's behind him, and then there's like a car. Do you remember? And it like sort of
I think so.
It's sort of hard to explain. It's like a montage, but it's very weirdly put in. Like there's like the car is like behind him, and it's sort of like half holographic or half see through, and it goes beep beep, and it just sort of like flies over his head, or just like little shit like that, like point of view shit. And then specifically in Spider-Man 2, which I'll go into detail in a little bit. He does like the scene where Doc Ock wakes up, which is almost better than anything or most of what the MCU has to offer, where the claws come to life in that in the hospital room, and they attack all the doctors, and you get like these fucking like bright lights and dark shadows, and it's like from the point of view of the tentacles flying around, and then the lady's like getting dragged and her nails are on the ground.
Yeah.
Right? It's like a horror movie. It's so fucking good. And just like shit like that I was just like, oh, that's just what movies do. They just do these weird little flares, and that's just what it is. But it's not. Like, it's just
Right.
specific to those movies.
Yeah. So Spider-Man 1 for me, Spider-Man 2 for you, right?
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
And
So Spider
Spider-Man 2 is your best one, right? That's your
Yeah,
top of the line
yeah,
fucking chef's
it's
kiss, like mwah.
yeah, I didn't put these in any specific order,
In
but
a real order. But if
but
you had to choose one to say it was on top, it'd probably be Spider-Man
probably
2.
this one or the Avengers. Yeah.
Right.
Like, I just like, it's so good, and not just the action scenes, but just like the scenes with him as Peter, they're so simple and they're so effective that they seem almost effortless, but they're not. Like, when he
Right.
gets to Matt May's apartment and it's his birthday, and they tell him happy birthday, and it's a little party, and you sort of get everything, all the relationship shit you need from him, from Aunt May, from MJ, and from Harry, right?
Right.
Um, but in any other movie, it's just like fumbled because it's so hard to do that in like 2 or 3 minutes,
Right.
and like showing how fucking poor he is, like everything breaks on him, right? Like, he buys the flowers and it's like a dozen, and the guy taps him on the shoulder as he's walking away, and he takes like 9 of them, and he's only left with like 3. Like, it's so good, and it's like, I was telling a friend, it's like it's so simple, and the shit with Doc Ock, with him and talking to Peter, it's so sincere that people might take it as corny, but
Mhm.
it's so sincere, and it wears its heart on its sleeve so well that I'm like, this is fucking awesome. Like, this is so good, and it's exactly what Peter Parker and Spider-Man is. And then of course you have the action scenes, which are all fucking awesome. Like, the subway fight, still great.
Yeah.
The bank robbery scene, fucking awesome.
The sub that's that scene, that's the one where he like the iconic, like he's on the fucking
The
front
front,
of it, right? Like
yeah, and he
with
like,
the he's like holding it together as it's like trying to pull him apart.
mm-hmm.
So like that scene is so iconic that like every Spider-Man movie since, or maybe not every Spider-Man movie, but every new iteration of Spider-Man has had that moment.
Yes.
Like
Mm-hmm.
Tom Holland had it with the boat that was falling apart
Mm-hmm.
in one of the Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
Like, he's falling apart, he's like hitting every spot that it says like the weak point, and then he like misses a few and he's trying to hold it and it still falls apart.
Yeah.
And that works because of Spider-Man 2.
Yes.
Like, the reason that works is because you see him trying to be Spider-Man and failing.
Yeah.
And like having to come to the grips with that. But the only reason that works so well is because you understand the iconic imagery of like Spider-Man is the guy who could hold it together. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, like, and they mention it. It's referenced in Spider-Verse, and then in the Spider-Man video game, he starts to web the train, and then it breaks, and he goes, "Oh, that worked last time."
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like that's like the Spider-Man movies have so many of the superhero movies now have to owe, like, they owe so much to those original Spider-Man movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just so good. I mean, like, every time I watch 2, it's like a fucking giant warm hug.
Right.
I'm trying to think of something at the end that I love. Oh, what was it? It was like something that I just remembered. I was like, that's so good. Like, MJ running through the park, and after she breaks off her marriage, and she's got like the wedding music is going, and it's like this bright white sort of dream-like thing, and she's running full speed and shit.
Yeah.
It's just so good. And
Yeah.
just watch Spider-Man 1 and 2 right now, and just fucking realize how awesome it is, and how we wouldn't have any of the comic book shit we have now without those.
Right. I would have, yeah. I need to go back and watch those. Just hearing, like, even just talking about it a little bit, I'm like, I want to go back and watch those.
Yeah.
Because you're right, it does feel like a warm hug. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, going from a movie that feels like a warm hug, I'm going to give you my final one, which is right now the top, but it's probably a level of recency bias, but I don't care, is Into the Spider-Verse. So that movie, so let you in a little something about me. I cry like a full-blown bitch. Like, every time a movie is on, if I'm even remotely supposed to be a little emotional about it, dude, I'm crying. I don't know what it is. I just can't help it. And, like, I watched Into the Spider-Verse, and I cried in so many different parts like a fucking coward, dude. Like, it was awful, and it's so good. Like, it plays on just so much, like, family dynamic stuff, and it's like sometimes that can feel like you're just kind of like tugging at strings to make, like just to get your point across here, or not get the point across, but like I want this person to feel sad, so this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but like it all feels so natural in that movie. Like it just feels natural. Like none of it seems forced, none of it seems
Yeah.
artificial, and like it's like the ultimate journey for the main character Miles Morales. And like you said, the scene with Chris Pine, he becomes Spider-Man or gets the powers. He doesn't become Spider-Man until the very end, which is very cool.
Yes.
But like it's growing into Spider-Man, and like Chris Pine says, like, I can't remember what his middle initial is, because all the Peter Parkers are like Peter blank Parker, and then like the next one in the next universe over is like Peter B Parker. But anyways, he's like, he's like, I don't know if I want to do this. And he's like, you don't really have a
You
choice.
don't really have a choice, and he's so good, and he like that he lands, and you get that little vibration thing, the little
Yeah,
like spider sense thing, and he goes, "Whoa, you're like me." It's like I didn't think there was. In any other lesser movie, he goes, "Whoa, you're like me. You're like Spider-Man, bro. Help me out, man. Come on,
right.
let's fight."
Yeah,
It's done so much more like fucking sitcom, but in this one, like fucking
and it works
immediately
for the rest of the movie. Like I said,
right.
like it all feels natural. Like if you really think about it, right? Like you said, is what would normally happen in a lesser movie, where he's like, "Oh, look, you have powers too." But like, if you really thought about what it would be like in that moment, if you're Spider-Man and you're currently battling the fucking a giant version of the Green Goblin while like the season's about to come down, and you come across that, like you will stop and adjust it because this is fucking weird that this is a thing. But
Mm-hmm.
like you would also see a kid that is like afraid. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And like you'd be like, especially if you're Peter Parker who's been dealing with this as Spider-Man, you'd be like, hey man, like like naturally you're just like, this is a problem, and like I need to help this kid out. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Not just like, it's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So like it all fits together. And one thing I will say is that like there's like it's all sentiment, like not sentimental, that's not the word I'm looking for. It's all business with that Spider-Man, and then like the Spider-Man that comes over that's played by Jake Johnson is
Yeah.
clearly like a lot of comedic relief. But like even with the show he was on, like The New Girl, I don't know if you've ever watched it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like kind of a regular sitcom kind of thing, but he's in it.
Yeah.
He does a great job of like he's got like good comedic timing, but like he also comes across very heartfelt with it, like without it being corny or forced, and like it works. Like he's great in that role also. You know what I mean? Like Jake
Yeah.
Johnson nails that Peter Parker. It's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Peter Parker who's down on his luck, but like needs to like now has a chance for redemption through this. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And like he's coming to his own terms, like getting his shit together on his own terms while also needing to help along this kid. And it's like that dynamic works because Jake Johnson, I think, nails it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like so many people nail it in every role. Fucking John Mulaney as fucking Peter Porker or
Yeah.
whatever, like is perfect.
And Nick Cage.
And Nick Cage as fucking Spider-Man Noir, like you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like it's so perfect, and everything works so good in that movie.
And I think, like, kind of like how I was saying, where like the sentimental scenes in the Raimi movies work so well, and they seem so effortless, and it's really not.
Right.
Like I can't
And I think
imagine
it's
how
the same
difficult
way in the Spider-Verse.
in
You know
Spider
what I
Verse,
mean?
or like how hard it must have
Especially
been
since
to
you're
craft
talking
the
about fucking
story.
cartoons. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like I feel like you can, I mean, not cartoons, but you know what I mean. Like people naturally are going to disassociate from animation versus people.
Yeah.
It's just we're not animated, so there's a level of disconnect.
Right.
And so like they nailed it. There's a few things I want to talk about, and I'm going to make them very quick. One, the parts I cried were his dad talking to him with the door closed, and he's like all webbed up and tied up, so he can't say anything.
Yeah.
And like, there's already this weird dynamic with his dad already, and then like, whereas a normal movie, he would just like, you get that weird thing where like people don't talk just because we want to get this mood across.
Mm-hmm.
Like normal people would say something. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yeah.
Like the plotting of the movie puts him in a natural position to be webbed up in a chair. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
got webbed up in a chair and stuck, and then his dad came. Like and like he physically can't say anything. And it
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily seem like he's super eager to. Like he's not like banging on the door with his head to speak, because there is still an awkward dynamic, but like it adds another layer of like, well, like I see why it happened that way. You know what I mean? I cried there. Cried when his fucking uncle dies. Says you're the best of us, Miles, dude. It's so
Yeah.
much like I just cried like a bitch so many times in that movie, and it's so good. Um, the other thing is one of the cool animation things I learned about this movie is that if I'm not mistaken, the animated movies are normally at 24 frames a second, or
Hmm.
and and I remember when I first started watching Spider Verse in theaters, like when I literally was sitting down, the movie started, and I was like I couldn't buy in at first because I was like everything, like the animation seems janky, and I don't know why. Like I can't put my finger on what looks so wrong,
Hmm.
and like I couldn't buy into it, and then I just bought into it, and like by the end of the movie, I was like, I don't. There was no problem with the animation. Like it must have just been a stylistic choice that I got used to, and
Yep.
then I learned that at the very beginning, I want to say Miles is at 8 or 12 frames per second, while the rest of the movie is at 24. Did
Hmm.
you know anything about this already?
Yeah. So, yeah,
Yeah.
because
So
when he's swinging with Spider-Man, Jake Johnson's Spider-Man,
right.
uh, the Jake Johnson moves, Spider-Man moves like normal, and then Miles is like every other frame he's moving,
Yeah.
so it's a little bit more janky, and it looks like he sort of doesn't quite know how to move yet.
Right. And throughout the movie, like I think even in that scene, I think he sped up a little more than he was in the opening.
Yeah.
And it's just a visual technique so that I think by the end of it he's moving faster than some of them. Like I think he's moving either faster or at least he's definitely the same.
Hmm.
And it's supposed to like be like a visual indicator. And it's one of those things that we talk about with movies where like the it's really that bad or it's really that good, which is like sometimes when movies do things and you don't realize they're good, but your brain still processes it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think you get that, and it's supposed to show Spider-Man coming into his own. You get Miles Morales at 8 or 12 or whatever it is. You get him trying to be Spider-Man, sped up maybe a little bit, but still clearly behind the other Spider-Man. And then at the end, you have him completely fluid, looking just like every other superhero. And it's like that is a visual indicator for you, and maybe you don't pick up on that's what's happening, but like you still feel it. You know what I mean? Like by the
Yeah.
end, he's fluid, and also the scene the what's up danger scene, him fucking like taking the leap of faith
Yeah. Hmm.
is so perfect. Like everything about that's great. That
Yeah.
movie's so good. Like I said, probably recency bias, but like right now, that's legitimately like it and Avengers are my favorite superhero movies of all time.
Yeah. And you're talking about you're not noticing it. It reminded me of there was this character in a YouTube channel called Red Letter Media called Mr. Plinkett, and he used to do these Star Wars reviews, specifically of the three prequels that were very good.
Hmm.
And I think they've done other ones, but the character, it's like a character that they make up, and he talks like this. And
Hmm.
every time that something like this comes up, I always think about the line he says where he's like, "You didn't notice it, but your brain did." And I think about it every single time. I'm like, "You didn't notice it, but your brain did."
Yeah,
Like,
and I also like it won animated movie of the year. I'm pretty sure.
yeah, the Oscar, yep.
Yeah, so like it's a great movie on its own. And then just on top of being a superhero movie, like it's just so good, and like there are a bunch of other little techniques. Like I remember seeing like one of the things they said was like a big push for it to be the animated movie of the year was that it did a lot of like revolutionary stuff with maybe not revolutionary, but like they took a lot of things that had only been done in 2D animation
Hmm.
and made them work in 3D without seeming super janky. Like
Yep.
I've seen a clip where like at one point Miles falls, and like if you act like you don't really notice it when it's happening on TV in front of you, but like they slowed it down, and his eyeballs come out of his head and are like higher than the rest of his body, and that's like a very common thing
Like a
that
Looney
happen
Toony
right,
kind of shit.
and it's just like a sudden fall, like it adds like not suspense, like instant like almost panic is not it's not the word I'm looking for, but like you understand that like it caught this character completely off guard that he fell. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like that's why he fell and then his eyes stayed up top. And
Yep.
like they do that with Miles Morales at one point. And it's not so they don't do it to such a degree that it's like breaking any sort of immersion, but like you definitely visually catch it. You know what I mean? You don't
Yeah.
process it necessarily, or you do process it, but maybe you don't notice it.
Yeah. It's like when he's running and his arm moves and there's like black lines to show movement. Yeah,
exactly.
instead of a blur, there's the black lines, and your mind just goes, "Oh, that's movement."
Yep, exactly. And it's just little stuff like that. Like, and it feels, if nothing else, it feels super unique.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's not another animated superhero movie or even really animated movie out there that's doing what that movie did visually. Yeah. It's like very clearly its own thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and like I said when we started, I was like, I'm sure, if you ask me tomorrow, what are your top 5, it probably makes it in there. I think at the end of last year, I made a top 10 movies of the decade, just because the decade was ending, and I think this was like my number 9 or 10 or I think 8. But yeah, dude, it's so good, and sometimes I'm like, it's so good that I kind of want to be like, hey, but there's these other ones. But yeah, like I said, ask me yesterday, ask me tomorrow, I'll be like, yeah, it's on my list.
And also, sorry, I just can't give this movie enough props. Like, not for nothing, it did all of these like kind of like revolutionary, like unique ideas and techniques in animation. It did all this in a time where like Pixar is like always up there for best animated film, and they all look the same. You know what I mean? Like every Pixar movie. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm not even saying they're the same. Like thematically, all of this stuff, it's different, but like the animation style is exactly the same in all of them.
Well, for that, I wouldn't dog on them for that one necessarily, because I feel like that's one of those situations where they had their look. Like,
I'm not even dogging on them for it. I'm just saying like the gumption of Into the Spider-Verse, where like you can look at the formula like this is what animation looks like. Everyone loves it. No one ever questions it. This is great. To just be like, no, we're gonna try and do our own thing, and it's gonna be wildly different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to shit on Pixar. I just meant like that's a lot of like gumption to try that. You know what I mean? Like everyone knows what it can look like and will work perfectly.
Yeah, like Pixar had their look and they sort of stuck to it. It's just that everybody copied Pixar instead of doing their own thing.
Right. You know, like Spider-Verse was like, nah, fuck that. We're doing our shit, and they nailed it.
Yeah.
So yeah, so those are our Spider-Man movies. And we're probably way past an hour now, right?
Well, if you want, we can skip the next one and just go to the last one real quick and just give people an advice to play this game.
Okay, so the game we're playing is Fall Guys, and it was free on PlayStation Plus. It probably won't be by the time this comes out because it switches every month. But it's great. It's super quick. It's like there's a game called Gang Beasts that kind of plays like, but basically it's just like imagine ragdoll physics combined with Mario Party. And it's like super short, super quick, fun to blow through. The whole objective of the game is basically like here's an obstacle course. And all you can do is you can run, you can jump, you can dive, and you can fucking grab people. And like
it's like Wipeout mixed with Mario Party. If you ever watched that show Wipeout on, I think it was on ABC, where people just go through an obstacle course and you just have to make it like a certain amount of time. And it's like that, like those two mixed together.
It's so great. Like you can just play like to just get through the obstacle course, and it's still fun because like people will grab you, like people fall. It's just fun watching people fuck up. Of course there's like they'll just send like a random ball come flying at you, and you just have to avoid it. You know what I mean? Like it's just kind of nonsense, but it wasn't trying to be anything else. But it's super great. My favorite tweet I think I saw was someone was like, "What if Fall Guys had a chat and you could only hear people when they grabbed you?" And I was like, that would be so amazing. Because the way I play this game, which is the most fun way, I don't care how anyone else plays it, is to just be an absolute scumbag. So, like, anytime, like, if I'm on, like, some of them are obstacle courses, and some of them, like, you're standing on this platform and you need to stay on it and not get knocked off. Dude, I spend that whole match just trying to grab people and shove them into shit to knock them off. And, like, I can't imagine just being able to tell someone like I'm going to bury you, like as I grab them and just launch them into
launch them into kiss me, and then you like break free, and then you're like, what the fuck was that? But yeah, I can't recommend it enough, and it's so nice because you can either spend hours playing it because it resets so quickly, and there's so many people playing that new games are popping up basically as soon as you get eliminated or if you win.
Right.
But then also like for example, like for me, like if I'm playing Spider-Man right now still. If my girlfriend wants to watch TV or something, we'll be like, "Ooh, let's play a quick Fall Guys," and we'll literally each play one game. It'll take 5 minutes because it boots up so quickly, and we're able to move on, right?
Yep.
Like it's not like GTA. We have to fucking take forever to get into the
fucking
world.
loading screens. Yeah.
The loading screens forever, or even Overwatch, which doesn't take that long, but it still takes time to get into the game, get to the point, attack the point, right? This you're in, you're out, 5 minutes, or an hour. Right.
Yeah.
And it's I do wish they could tweak a couple things in terms of multiplayer, but overall it's so much fun. Definitely totally recommend it. I don't know what the price is because I got it for free when it was on for free on PlayStation. But if you can buy it and it's not too expensive, I totally recommend it.
Yeah, I can't imagine it's an indie game by a game that does by a studio that does a bunch of other indie games that are nothing like this. I wish you could understand how not like this their other games were. If you can, everyone at some point, if you've played Fall Guys and you like it, realize that the best game they've ever made is Hotline Miami, and just go look at a trailer for Hotline Miami or just YouTube fucking Hotline Miami gameplay. It is like a top-down like action shooter that's like super intense, like high, fast paced, just like fucking. You remember in The Last of Us 2 where that bitch is playing the PSP, like and the music's playing? Like
Yeah.
That's the game. They made it. It's literally like you play a guy who's like losing his mind and murdering like all of these like.
So it's
criminals.
definitely not like this at all.
Fucking no, dude. And like it's got the super fast paced like EDM techno music while you're doing it. Like it's. And it like gets real dark in some spots. This shit is like just like literally Mario Party. It's so crazy to me how neither not alike these two games are, and how great both of them are. Like by the same studio, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you have a wheelhouse, you stick to it generally, but these are like wildly different, and they're both good. So
yeah,
definitely check out Fall Guys.
Yep, definitely.
All right, so I'm gonna say we're definitely at an hour, way past it, right?
Yep.
Okay, so that's the episode, guys. We'll catch y'all next week. Definitely gonna hit baseball next week, which I wanted to talk about today, even though I don't really watch that much baseball. Still want to talk about it, so we'll catch that next week. If you want to catch me on any social media, I'm at TMoneybags on Instagram and Twitter,
and I'm at Evercastro92 on Instagram.
All right, and if you want to catch the podcast on social media, it's at DiffAnimalsPod on both Twitter and Instagram. Or you can email us directly at differentanimalspodcast@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
Like, review, subscribe, tell your friends, spread word of mouth.
Yeah, tell the person.
Absolutely appreciate it.
Tell the person you went to see Avengers with opening weekend.
Yeah, and if you're ever, that means you have to tell like 9 people through 4 different trips. So yeah, whoever you saw Avengers with, tell them about this podcast.
Yep.
Stay safe, stay entertained, and we'll catch you guys next week.
See you guys.
Peace. Oh.
Yeah. Huh?
Okay, so since we were talking about superhero movies, my Kanye West line, do it better than anybody you ever seen do it. Scream some the haters, got a nice ring to it. I guess every superhero needs his theme music.
Perfect.
That's motherfucking bars. You know nothing about that. What up?